Together, we are Savvy Coaching. Excited to have Tyler here. He just got off the road from a epic camp in Valparaiso, and I know he crushed it over there. Tyler, any key takeaways from the clinic?
I mean, my key takeaway is that you've heard me kick off the hours by saying I'm Tyler enough
I
now.
know.
And it's like that's like the phrase. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Key takeaway is players love to be believed in and have a vision cast for them of more than they are. And I think that sometimes familiarity breeds contempt. And unconsciously, when we see the same players day after day, we begin to get numb to who they can become, and all we can see is who they are. And the benefit of doing what we do is we get to go in and see the dreams and excitement of these young players, and we can speak to their potential. And that's what I think is special about a camp experience. People leave it pumped up because someone had fresh eyes on their dreams.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I know you are hitting the road again as early as tomorrow, man. So I'm glad we're able to fit this one in. Let's start with the big question. I love this one. It's a hot topic. It comes up in almost every conversation that you see in Twitter and social media, and even the conversations we have with coaches all over. So, Tyler, big question for you. Is there ever a time to run 5-on-0 offense?
Like the great teacher, Jesus of Nazareth, I will answer a question with a question and then enumerate, possibly. If someone's an alcoholic, is it okay for them to have them a small drink?
I would say no.
Okay. And I would agree. So let's see if we can relate this a little bit. So I would say, like, is it okay to drink alcohol? I would say yes. If someone is an alcoholic and really struggling with that addiction, is it okay to have a small drink right now? I would say no. And how does that relate to 5-on-0? I would say that if someone is coming from a coaching background where they are running hours of 5-on-0 or significant blocks of time of 5-on-0, then I would say in order to reset the system and remove the crutch, because I truly believe that 5-on-0 is a crutch. When we remove that crutch, I'd say just cut it out cold turkey completely and immerse yourself in an alternative way. But like alcohol, in moderation. Does it have value? Absolutely. It can mark a momentous occasion. It can be an enjoyable cultural experience. It can be a way to celebrate and relax with a shared experience with friends socially. And like crutches, do crutches have a use? Absolutely. When you're injured or weaker, then you need a crutch in order to get strong and healthy again. And I think that 5-on-0 is a crutch in that way. I think we always look at crutches as only negative. But no, crutches serve a very important purpose. And I think that 5-on-0 can serve that very important crutch purpose, but it's only to get you strong. And so I think, those two analogies of be careful of it if you're dependent on it, like alcohol, right? But utilize it when you know that you're weaker, introducing something new, and your players aren't familiar with it, but know that the goal is to get off the crutch as well.
Yeah, that's really good. I would have a similar answer. I would say yes, there's a place for it. I would challenge coaches to think about why they're running 5-on-0 offense, though. For me, if we were going to run 5-on-0 offense, what I'm looking for is the pace of play. We talk about pace in the full court, but we really want great pace in the half court as well. So, how hard are we cutting? How quickly is the ball moving? That way, our players can feel it. Like, hey, look, if we were going to pick an optimal possession, this is what it would feel like, because that means defense is not being disruptive at all, right? We get to do whatever we want when we want. And then something else I would look for is, are we recognizing triggers, right? If we put in a trigger, so for us, I know whether we're racing space or driving space, just in our conceptual offense, ball in the action spot, we're typically playing action to action, and that leads to a ghost screen, a fingers cut, or fan action. are we recognizing those things? Whatever triggers you have in your offense, do your players pick up on those? I think where um, the debate lies is, does that transfer to the game? And some will, very little will, probably, maybe the speed and the triggers that we talked about, but there's nothing that's making players adapt, right? So we're just assuming that the ball can be moved freely everywhere and that there's no defense in the passing lane. Or um, are we, here's something that we might sacrifice. We mentioned ghost screen. Well, are we taking a good angle at the ghost, right? Well, there's no defense there, so we don't really know. So we have to watch out, because we have to be aware of that, because we're not asking our players to adapt to anything. And I would say one of the best skills as coaches that we can instill in our players is adaptability, where you just don't have the opportunity for that in 5-on-0.
Beautifully said. Agreed. And I observed this recently. I got to observe 2 consecutive days of practice, completely separate, just walking through a gym. And both days, so I don't know how long it was happening, but it happened 2 days at 2 different times. Walking through a gym, every player had a piece of paper, a sheaf of papers, rather. There were 5 players out on the floor with their sheaf of papers. The coach had their sheaf of papers, and they were walking through 5-on-0 while the other 8, 10 players were looking at their sheaf of papers.
Are you
And
saying
I mean,
sheaf?
what's that?
Are you saying sheaf?
Is that not a word, sheaf?
I've never heard it. I don't know.
Okay,
Maybe
well, I'm
you
Googling it right
do.
now. Sheaf. I'm thinking of like a large stack. I don't even
Okay.
know how to spell it.
See, I would
Sheaf.
say stack of papers.
Sheaf. SHEAF. A
Okay.
bundle or
Okay.
collection of items bound together.
All right. I'm writing it down.
I think it's a
Learn something
biblical
new.
word because the first definition refers to like stalks of grain, but then it goes into the second definition, a collection of items. So maybe it's like a sheaf of like grain is the original, and so paper is maybe a bit of a stretch, but sheaf. There you go.
Okay. Hey, I learn something new every day from you.
Like, I'm glad that you questioned it because I was like, is that an actual word? Did I make that up?
All right. Continue. Sorry.
Oh, anyway, yeah. So I think on my travels, I recognized that would be an example. That's actually where the example of the alcoholic came from. Like, okay, like you can tell that there's an over reliance on this thing or an assumption that this thing is needed, as it was happening through multiple days for a significant period of time, with yeah, very little application or transfer. On the flip side of that, I'll give an example where we used it this weekend in our Epic camp. We were going into a ping pong game where we're introduced into 11-second action, two actually. So first we introduced Warrior, which is verbalize what we wanted because these were 2 separate actions that we had done independently. And I said, okay, you have 60 seconds at your 4 baskets, 5-on-0 to try to do this. Coaches, you can't give any feedback. And then we flowed directly into ping pong, 5-on-4 ping pong, where one team was ping ponging back and forth, going 5-on-4, experimenting with the
Tyler froze here. I'm gonna give him a second to get back. Oh, there we go. Tyler, you had froze for a sec.
Oh, where did I freeze?
You had 5-on-4 ping pong.
We played 5-on-4 ping pong where each team got 4 possessions. I gave a little bit of feedback. We rotated through the next team, getting 5-on-4 ping pong. So kind of moving to a significant advantage of a man down for them to experiment with the timing and spacing and adjusting to defense.
Yeah. I like the 4 baskets, 60 seconds. One thing I would say too, for 5-on-0, if you're going to do it, maybe work on a specific concept action where you can say, oftentimes if we did on air, we would do the exact same thing you did. 4 baskets split up. You have to score off a burn cut, or we have to run this action before we get a shot. Can't start with it. So can we organically find that action within a possession? Have to score off a 2 out, like an extra pass. so we get the ball clicking, something like that, where we're not just running possessions
Mhm.
without a purpose. So I think we both agree there's a place for it. I like how you said just be aware of how much you're using it, and then I would just add let's have a purpose if we're going to use it.
Love it.
All right, you ready to move on to mailbag here? We got a lot of
Mailbag.
questions coming in from the community.
Let's do it.
All right, let's see. So this one's good, and I want your take on this first. So I'll ask this one. From Dan Carey in Milwaukee. I had a chance to work with Dan's team last week in Milwaukee at Pius High School, and he does a phenomenal job with his group. And they played their first team camp this past weekend. Struggled to rebound a little bit. So the question is, my assistants are pushing to do more quote unquote old school box out and taking charge drills as we struggle with both. How would you guys address these two issues?
I will go first. And again, with all these things, I would love to ask him a question like, what does it mean to struggle with taking charges? I don't see a direct, so, and I'm probably in the minority here. Here's a hot take. I don't see a significant correlation between charges taken and winning. I don't necessarily see that. So I'm probably in the minority, as in I'm not as enamored with the taking of charges as some people. And just within a return on investment, I've seen significant amount of practice time that goes into taking charges. And yet I say, well, how many charges does your team take a game? Sometimes we get two. Whoa. So like two possessions, you have somewhat of an impact. And I would actually bet that in the attempt to take a charge, which referees are notoriously terrible at calling, you probably are committing two blocking fouls.
Yep.
And if it's five, you're probably committing four blocking fouls because you force a call. When you attempt to take a charge, you force a call one way or the other. You can kind of veer that a little bit, but you're not at 100%. So I would just say stop caring about charges so much.
Okay. Let's go charges, and then we'll go to rebounding.
Yeah.
I actually agree with you, and maybe we're gonna ruffle some feathers here. Hopefully,
What's the
stimulate some thinking. Yeah. Um, the more I coached, the less I cared about taking charges. I think taking a charge is a byproduct of good help. And the goal of help should be to force a pass. I think you say it. Every drive should be a pass, right? That's our
yeah.
mantra, one of our principles on
Mhm.
defense. Um, so I think if you're taking charges, you're there early enough that you're established, but offense makes a poor choice and doesn't kick
Mhm.
it, right? They don't see chest, pitch, and punish you for helping. So then naturally you're going to get run over, and that's going to be the obvious charge that the referee cannot miss. So we should arrive and help with the intent to force a pass instead of, ooh, I'm going to slide over and take a charge. Like you said, I would almost say 8, 9 times out of 10 that's going to lead to a blocking charge, but blocking call. I think what the charge does, it's the excitement, right? And it's like
Yes.
a quote unquote tough play and a momentum play, which is awesome, but we're not necessarily hunting charges. That's not the goal of defense. The goal of defense is to win the ball back, right?
Yeah.
So I
I've
actually
always said
agree with
that
you.
the taking charges is for people that can't dunk. It's the equivalent of the momentum play.
Yeah, and exactly. Or, hitting a three could be a
Yes.
momentum play.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
But
old
the
school,
thing like dunking where like players spend a inordinate amount of time practicing their dunking for how many dunks they might actually get in a game. I feel like the same thing is for the
yeah,
charge as well. It's because it does have like a higher level of attention and excitement around it. So people really spend a lot of time on it for the actual impact it may or may not have on a game.
yeah. I think too, we got way more return out of teaching our players how to contest vertically
Mhm.
at the rim, because I was actually really impressed. I had a team that did that really, really well. And we were big. We were like 6'5" across the board. And we would contest vertically at the rim, and I almost expected more to be called blocks, but the referees, like, I was amazed
Yeah.
that they didn't. It was just no call after no call after no call, and put a lot of pressure on the offense. So, all right, let me start with rebounding, and then you make it better for me.
Okay.
Block out drills, I think, can raise awareness, can serve as a prime, right? Like let's let's just put it in their heads. Let's get a couple reps, almost like 5-on-0 offense. Let's see where we're at. But I don't know that that transfers to the game because you want them to block out in a game. So why not shape the game around blockouts? All right. So you could do a blockout drill and then play a game that maybe you only score rebounds, right? So every rebound is a point. We're playing the 5 points. You got to get a rebound to go on offense or however you want to rotate. Or you get a rebound, you stay on defense so you continue to get rebounds. Some kind of constraint or condition around rebounding will likely lead to better transfer. And I'll give you, actually, could be game of the week, but I'll give it to you now. Best way to work on blockouts in a game would be a game we called Cutthroat, where you pick one thing that is a violation that removes the defense. So you can only score on defense. I love to play this in 3 teams of 4. Let's say we have black, white, and red. Black is on defense, white is on offense. We play a possession, and if defense makes any mistakes, they're all excusable. We don't blow the whistle. We don't coach, except if we miss a blockout. And we might ruffle some more feathers saying blockouts are overrated. What I always coach my players to do is just check, right? Rise of the shot. I'm making eye contact with the player that I'm guarding, and I'm making sure he or she is not coming. If they make a move, I may have to go block them out. If they don't, then I'm just pursuing the ball. So I got way more return on Cutthroat than I would a traditional blockout drill.
Yeah. I like all of that. My mind went to what we might need to rename the podcast, as well as we're continuing to kind of go down this road. And I like how we're not shying away from it. Okay, 3 steps that I think will have 3 things that I think would have a greater impact on rebounding success than blockout drills. And a lot is going to maybe support what you said, Mark, but give maybe some different approaches.
Okay.
I'll try to order these in what I think will have the greatest impact on more rebounding success, because I don't think that the goal is blocking out. I think that the goal is getting more defensive rebounds. Again, like zoom out. You know, what you say all the time, Mark, like the goal of offense isn't to run offense. The goal of offense is to score. The goal of boxing out isn't to box out. The goal of boxing out is to get to rebounds. Okay, so you want to get more rebounds. Here's the most impactful thing you can do right now to get more rebounds. Play better rebounders. I mean, there are just certain players that are better rebounders than others. And instead of doing box out drills, if you actually care about this thing, then just play your better rebounders, which is step 1. They get the ball more. Okay. Step 2, which is related to step 1, don't play the bad rebounders. Now, I have those as 2 different steps because I think that it's a different emphasis, focus, framing, and communication that will determine changes of behavior. So 1, play better rebounds. You'll get rebounders. You'll get more rebounds. 2, I tell you, Mark, you're not starting anymore, and you're not going to play as much until you rebound better. That's that's a different take and a different coaching step and a consequence than just playing the better rebounders. I say that to you, and I say that to everybody. And go ahead.
So I would say this, and I thought about this before you even said that. The pain of not changing has to be greater than the pain of changing, right?
Yeah.
So if I don't start rebounding, I'm going to lose my starting spot. I'm probably going to start rebounding.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the third one is measure it. Measurement is magic. If you care about shooting, you have a shooting ladder. If you care about, deflections, you measure deflections. Okay. If you care about rebounding, then you have a rebounding ladder. And these things just don't happen as often as those other things.
So Tyler, what are your thoughts? Okay. So measure rebounding ladder. I like the idea of it. Never used it before because I don't care about rebounding. Just kidding.
Right. Just make more shots. You don't have to rebound.
That's right. Shoot 9s and 7s, and you barely have to, or don't allow 9s and 7s. You don't
Exactly.
rebound. Stay out of rotation would be number 1, right? If you stay out of rotation, your rebounding becomes easier. But so measurement, are you measuring rebounds, or are you measuring how consistently we blocked out, right? So like I know at some college programs that I've seen will measure percentage of time you go block out when you're supposed to, and the benchmark is like 70%. So what exactly would you measure there?
So I think there's a first step and there's a most accurate step, and you need more resources for the most accurate step. So let me go backwards. Most accurate step would be rebound percentage on off split. So like when you're on the floor, what's your team's rebound rate, defensive and offensive rebound rate? And when you're off the floor, what's your rebound rate? Because that should take into account both aspects of both erasing your player or the nearest player and then going and chasing the ball. But I think the simplest step number one really is, and I think this would probably get you indicators, get you 70% of the way there, is rebounds gained. And again, if that's like, I care less about boxing out because I care more about getting the ball and not keeping that person from getting the ball. And so if you're getting rebounds, that means that you're expending effort in pursuing the basketball. If you're not getting rebounds, then you're not really pursuing effort. And I think that the best rebounders can do both. They can pursue the ball while getting in the way of the other person.
Got it. One measurement for team rebounding that I found useful is your defensive rebounding percentage and your offensive rebounding percentage should add up to 100. So a good, so I think an elite offensive rebounding percentage would be like 40. That's where you want to get to. But if you're at 70% defensive rebounding percentage and 30% for a game, like, that's pretty good. Anything below that, like, so a good benchmark to measure too would be your team rebounding percentage, and that'll help you see where you're at. But I would say 80 would be obviously really, really good defensively, and 40 would be really, really good offensively. So yeah, just two kind of benchmarks for you.
It's good.
All
I wonder
right.
if they hate both of those answers or if they'll be helpful. I hope they're helpful.
Yeah, I hope
Helpful
so.
to everybody. I think they are.
I think so too. I like the rebounding ladder. That's something I took away. I never even thought about doing that.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah, we should make a note for next week to talk more about the shooting ladder. Again, is got some more ideas on that. I'm making a note right
now. I've gotten a lot of questions on that too, so that'll be good
Okay,
to
nice.
talk about again. All right, I'll ask you another one then if you want to go and ask me. But here's one I think you'll have good insight on. What are some ideas both offensively and defensively to play at a faster pace with players that have to play but they're slower?
Why do they have to play? Is my first question. I mean, so again, I'm coming out of this these last two clinics and camps that I've done where I've had personnel conversations with every coach. And I think it's one of the most valuable services that we can provide is fresh eyes on your personnel, because a lot of times we make assumptions. And so in every program, these coaches have liked players more than I've liked them. And so I've asked, I'm like, why do you like this player so much? Why are they in your top 5, 6, or 7? Why are they starting? And a portion of that comes down to things that they value versus things that I value, which is normal. Every coach is going to have different things they value. And if that's the case, absolutely. Right. But some portion of it comes down to traditional expectations of types of players that have to play, as opposed to actually objectively measuring their impact on the game. So why do slow players have to play? I think 3 common answers that I get to why slow players have to play is defensive rebounding, guarding the opponent's post player, or they're one of our most skilled offensive players are the 3 most common answers that I get. So if that is the case, any of those, and if that is in fact reality, that's why the Dragon role in the 7-second game and in transition was created. It was created so that slow player could at least have something to do when the other 4 players are racing at full speed. I don't think you need 5 fast players in order to play race space. In fact, I think you don't need any fast players, but I think that you ideally would have 3 players that can play fast. I think there's a difference between playing fast and being fast as well. But yeah, I would put the Dragon as your slowest player, and I'd probably put the Porch player as your second slowest player. And I think you can still play pretty fast.
Yeah, that's where my mind went to. I would also say work with Barkley, them getting into a Barkley more, because a lot of their drives will probably be leveled off. But I would also say this, and I think you said it, is they need to be really decisive on the catch. because
Mhm.
whether I have a short closeout, long closeout, if if I'm a little slower in that moment, I'm faster than you because I'm going one way, you're going the other way, you're having to read me. I'm the actor, you're the reactor. So yeah, I just think the pace in which you play, because I agree. Like I'm thinking of some of the teams that I've coached that have played with really good pace. I wouldn't say that we were track stars.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think our defense complemented our offense complemented our defense, and we did what we did. We played hard, right, and competed, and yeah. So that'd be my takeaways there.
Yeah,
I
and
do.
I would even throw out this, like, I think you really only need one fast player to really put pressure on the defense in transition. One player that's trying to get out, up, and behind the defense to compromise them and create more disorganization. And a lot of times that fast player is not getting a shot. All they're doing is creating mismatches or some level of miscommunication in space for the ball to hunt. So I think that thinking you need five fast players might limit your ability to enact a race in space or a drive in space offense.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna flip one. I was gonna flip one back to you here real quick. I don't think shot feedback is in the cards for today's, but I will share that shot feedback. I don't think that's kind of fitting into the theme right now. But I did have one question for you. Okay. Um, Offensive install thread has gotten a lot of really good um, conversation, and you've provided a lot of good answers there. In fact, Daniel Nettle said that this thread is gold.
I saw that.
So yeah, so he's loving it. Lots of different answers here on the offensive install piece. So I'll just ask you this: How you have 1 2 hour practice before you go play a summer league game? How much of that time are you going to take to install your offense versus any other needs that you have? Um, Defense, rebounding, skill development, shooting, whatever. How much of that time? 2 hours. You have a game tomorrow, and you have brand new freshmen, a couple transfers. People have no clue what we're doing.
Most of it,
Okay.
most of the 2 hours. But when I say install offense, you mentioned skill development, I think those are one and the same. Offense is an application of skill. When we're working skill development, we're working it within the framework of our offense. When we're working offense, we're working on applying the skill. So there's going to be a lot of overlap there. I
Mhm.
think the way I would be able to coach or teach a lot of offense while still focusing on the other aspects of the game, like defense, I would
Mhm.
I would probably start with just on ball defense. Like we're gonna play 1-on-1, which we're gonna work individual skill. And here, let me take a little sidebar here. Most coaches, when they think of player development or skill development, it's all only on the offensive side of the ball. And they think of defense as like, oh, we have a system for that. Like if our on ball defender gets beat, we're going to help and then we're going to cover down and then we're going to close out. And or if they set this screen, we have this coverage and we neglect individual skill development on the defensive side. So I would play a lot of 1-on-1, whether that's actually with the ball and we're working on guarding the ball. If it was lock left, my one practice, I might say, rule number one, don't get beat to the right. Rule number two, pressure as much as you can without violating rule number one. And at least we're starting the foundation of lock left. We might talk about what jail is and where that is, or where we want to influence the ball, whether you're pack line or lock left or pressure man to man. But within that, we're always going to be working offense as well. For rebounding, like we talked about, instead of drills, I would just, hey, we're working on offense. We're going to start with a ghost screen, and the only way you can score is if you get a rebound. If you score, that gives you the chance to go maybe make it, take it, and offensive rebounds are worth two or whatever it is. But I'm going to find a way to make those other things bleed in there. But most of the time on offense, I'll flip it to you. What would you do?
I would do exactly what you said. But the only thing is, I would only ever teach lock left.
Right.
And I'm just more and more cemented in this. And I shared this email with you, but I want to share this as a celebration with our community as well. Um, and just encouragement, because I know in the past, because I'm the lock left guy, and we sell a lock left product, right? So I've always been a little bit maybe more hesitant, been like, hey, try it out, see if it's for you. Even though in my heart I'm like, this is absolutely the best. So I'm going to not have any more reservations about saying, the more I see it, the more I do it. This is absolutely the best thing I think you could be doing for your defense. Anyway, Matt, Division II coach. They ran lock left 3 years ago. They just made the NCAA tournament. They still do lock left principles. He emailed me recently, and he said this. He said, there is zero doubt that this is what high schools should all be doing, and we continue to make sure that we direct any that ask us your way. And I believe it to be true as well. I think the only time that I would be like, oh, maybe it's not for you, would be like as you get to the highest levels and the most dynamic ball handlers with the best shooters and the most spacing. He also shared this, as I know many people in our community are like, oh, are there any Division I or top college teams running lock left? And if I'm not working with them personally, I don't know who's bought the course or who's stolen the principles or come to a clinic. So I actually don't know. And since I don't watch college, I don't know either. But this college coach shared 2 teams that do run significant amounts of lock left principles. So I'll be sure to check them out. I encourage you to check them out as well. But South Dakota State, he said, runs a lot of lock left principles, as well as University of Northern Colorado. So I'm going to check them out and reach out to them, because I did not know that. I have not worked with those teams personally, but I think I'm going to be a fan of those 2 teams now. So anyway, just wanted to add that little nuance. Like, I know many of you are like, man, should I be doing lock left? Should I be doing lock left? And I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Don't shy away from it, man. And I love.
Shy away from it. You believe it.
I am the lock left guy. That's what I'm going to refer to you as now.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna start signing my emails that way.
The lock left.
Should we flow through game of the week?
Yeah, let's do that. You want to take game of the week for us?
Yeah. So Ron asked a couple questions about some of the games in the drill book, and one thing that Mark and I are committed to, especially, is we are deepening our partnership, and I'm learning from him, and we're aligning our language. We both have content and courses that were filmed up to 2 years ago. And the names of these drills change. We create new drills, we create variations of these drills. And so that's why this is a living, breathing membership. We're here to help you. And that's why we're moving towards a place where all of our content and drills can be searchable. So we're excited for that to continue to develop. So when you ask questions and we're like, oh, what's the difference between this game and this game? Oftentimes the answer is not much, except we taught it in a different time. So for example, I will teach, we'll play race car, but I will call it many different things based on what we're focusing on. We just did a game of race car this last week that I called burn cuts. Well, I only called it burn cuts because that's how you could get 5 points, because they weren't burning. And so we just called it burn cuts, because I like to name the drill what we're focusing on, not the organization. So that might clarify something. So 3v2 scram. Well, I mean, it could be 1v5 scram. It could be 1-on-0 scram. It can be 2-on-2 scram. The focus is we're trying to scram. Scram is a peel switch. It's a jumping defense, a jumping switch on defense. And then we would just wait either the offense or the defense to give the advantage to the team that we want. So I do remember specifically 3v2 scram, because my focus is on defense. I know I would have given the 3 to the defense, which is kind of a little bit different. Typically it's offense, but I know that I had 3 on defense. So I had on the ball, I had someone in the gap, and then I had a third defender in the smile with only 2 offensive players. So I wanted to give a crutch, right? We talked about crutches before. I wanted to give a crutch to the defense so they could be really aggressive on the ball and not be worried about giving up a layup at the rim. So that was a 3v2 scram. We generally do it on one area on the floor where we have the ball, we've got the gap, and then the other offensive player in the gap, and we just play live from there. Porch ping pong. Ping pong is just an organization where I would keep one team going back and forth between 2 ends of the floor. I do ping pong winner stays. If the offense wins, they get to stay on offense. If the defense wins, they get to move to offense. It's a way to get 3 or more teams involved. That's what ping pong is. And so porch ping pong just means we were trying to play through our porch series. So in porch ping pong, I'd probably designate porch ping pong when we're going against a zone type of a defense, so we can try to overload one side of the floor and play through the porch or the baseline. Some coaches call porch series baseline series, where we're trying to get the ball to touch the baseline and then unlock that series or family of actions. So that's what porch ping pong would be. And I think the more that you listen to these podcasts, the Hours podcast, the more you'll understand even like the savvy language, which builds the savvy coaching tree, which is what we're trying to build. So hopefully that gives you enough context to even start to interpret more drills in games and build your own drills in games with naming of intent as opposed to naming of organization.
Yeah, you don't need a new drill. You just need to change the environment, right? Maybe change, add a constraint, add a condition, remove a player like you did. So, yeah, so fewer drills, fewer games. I love the idea of naming the drill or game after what you're actually trying to accomplish, because especially when you're using echo yells, it just instantly puts that at the forefront of your players' minds, and players remember what they think about. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Mark, and
Um,
as we transition into practice better here, let me ask you this. Did you use echo calls prior to getting involved with Savvy?
I did.
Okay, nice. Where did you first come across that idea?
I think Don Meyer was
Okay.
the first one. So early in my coaching career, as a 21-year-old head coach, fell in love with coaches clinics. I went through the like I know everything to I know nothing. Like, holy
Mhm.
cow, I'm a head coach now. What do I do? So fell in love with coaching clinics. Is probably where I really developed, my lifelong learner mentality. And I got a DVD set of Don Meyer, 3 practices. Looking back, a lot of it, you know, maybe not do, but it gave me a great foundation. And yeah, so I think I got that from him. But um,
Awesome.
I would also do it too, echo yells. Um, if I'm at practice and maybe you're a player and we're doing a drill, or we're working on something, we're spread out across the gym, I might just say, "Hey Tyler, we're going race car next," and it'd be your job to say race car, and you yell it, and then the whole gym echoes. And it was kind of like a game for us. It did raise awareness. It kind of got everybody on the same page, but it was also a way where we would just kind of play telephone down the gym, where you say race car, the players closest to you hear it, they echo it, and then the whole gym hears it. And now we're ready to move on to the next one. I didn't coach with a whistle, so I would say hold. That meant hold the ball, no more shots, dribbles, or passes. So a lot of times it was hold. I would call the drill. Everybody echoes, and we're moving on.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's a great way to practice better. We all want more communication. If you want more of a thing, build in some level of rhythm that requires that thing. Triggers, just like we trigger an action. If you want more touch, then make sure that a hydrate break triggers 5 touches. If you want more, communication, make sure the start of every game or drill requires echo calls. Like build in triggers for the things that you want, as opposed to say we want these things and hope for it.
Yeah. One thing too you can use in echo is if you stop, you teach, and um, let's say we're teaching a specific concept, like we just talked about burn cuts, right? So we're missing opportunities to burn cut, and that's really what we want to see more of. Then after we teach, well, let's echo burn cuts, right? That way, if somebody completely zoned out on you, at least they're saying burn cuts before they move on to the next thing, right? So
I
yeah,
like that.
I like it.
Well, I think this was another information-packed episode. I was looking forward to getting home from my travels to be able to jump on and connect with you and with our coaches. 3 quick reminders for coaches. One, our community's free, and you can invite people in to join it. We've got a vision of getting 1,000 coaches in there to have it be the place where coaches go to get their questions answered. Invite somebody, please. Please invite them. We would like to interact and impact more coaches. That's our why. That's our identity. 2, if you are a Grow member, I really encourage you to check out this month's cohort of mental skills. I would say it is much like it is doing something that maybe we're not that confident in, so we tend to shy away from things that we're not that confident in. teaching mental skills to our players, but it's also a great competitive advantage. There's some really valuable content in there. And three, if you are not a Grow member and you'd like access to every one of our courses, our drill book, the cohorts, please become a Grow member. All you have to do is message us, go to savvycoach.com. We'd love to have you try us out for a month. I challenge you to try us out and not get value, and we would love to give you your money back. We believe in what we're doing.
Yeah, and like you said, as a Grow member, the resources grow with you. So constant content, and as we learn, we're dropping it in the app and giving you more to learn and grow from. So thanks for spending this time with us. I want to say rest in peace to the logo, to Jerry West. Incredible career. The more I read about him, just gosh, I didn't know how accomplished he was, but one of the greats. So rest in peace, Jerry
Yes,
West. Man, game lost a good one. So
absolutely.
he is Tyler, not me. I'm Mark. And together, we're Savvy Coaching. Thanks for spending this time with us. We encourage you, as always, stay savvy.
Stay savvy.